Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Uriah, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God Yahweh, Bahashima Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice. In the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars, they're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, doing everything they could do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand, to wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty akwaf in this thing that sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers, on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty akwaf that are not married as of yet, right, but building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, doing everything they could do, right, to magnify the Most High in the ministry. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty children in this thing, man, zealous of good works, right, they're doing the work of the Most High, standing from all lust, concupiscence, and peer pressure, standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the 12 tribes scattered abroad, reading, praying, fasting, magnifying the Most High and his beloved son Yahawashi. This is going to be a Q&A. So any brothers, sisters that have questions, diving into parables, prophecy, and or counsel, or just scriptures, period, we're going to dive into it, right, through the mercy of the Most High. And we're going to go to each, question in order, so if we don't get to your question, Most High willing, we'll be able to dive into it, later on this week, if it be the mercies of the Most High. Right, we touching on it through the Spirit. I'm about to share my screen. And give me a strong con if you can see the screen. Give me a strong con if you can see the screen. All right, we diving straight into it. Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Ezekiel. This is Ezekiel chapter 40. And I'm going to start at verse number 4. It says, "And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes, and hear with thine ears, and set thine heart upon all that I shall shew thee," man. So our heart needs to be set upon what the Most High reveals unto his servants, the prophets. It says, "For to the intent that I may shew them, right, unto thee, thou art brought thither. Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel." So that's what we're sent to do as messengers of the Most High. We're sent to declare all of the works, the prophecies, and the things that the Most High has given man to all the house of Israel, right? And in the last days, we need to be kicking up our learning, man. It's going to be a lot of false doctrines, ideologies, lies, and sorcery, right? That's going to overthrow the simple, man, in the last days. And if you're not rooted in this truth, you're going to be overthrown. And you're going to be sifted away just like certain parts of the church of Ephesus, man. Like children tossed to and fro, right? You want to be in this thing rooted and understand what it is, right, that you readeth. Let's go to the book of Acts, right, chapter 8. It's Acts chapter 8 in verse number 28. It says, "And was sitting, Salakia, and was returning and sitting in his chariot and read Isaiah the prophet. Then the Spirit said unto Philip, Go near and join thyself to this chariot." So spirits are on brothers to be able to break things down, as well as humble brothers being able to ask questions. It says, "And Philip ran thither unto him and heard him read the prophet Isaiah and said, Understandest what thou readest?" So you may read, but the whole point of reading is not just to get your 7 chapters. Okay, you read, I got my 7 chapters in. I'd rather read 1 chapter and fully understand the context, right? The timelines and dates, the double to that which is, and things that are hidden in plain sight, than to read 7 chapters, not really grasping or understanding what's really going on, man. What's the spirit? Was it a captivity, right? I mean, is this book, written at this time, right? You want to understand what thou readest. It says, "And he said, How can I, except some man should guide me?" So we all need help understanding the scriptures. We all need to be guided, right? The elders guided men, right? The prophets guided men, right? The Lord guides men. He stands at your door and knocks. And if any man open unto thee, he will come into thee, man, and sup with thee. It says, "And he desired Philip that he would come unto him and sit with him," right? The place of the scripture which he read was this: He was led as a sheep to the slaughter, and like a lamb dumb before the shear, so open he not his mouth. Right? Now we're going to dive into it. We're going to come back to it. Right? First question. Shalom to everybody, joining the live. Shalom, shalom. Right? First question. Right? Caramel. As Purim is coming up, do I have to give gifts to my family that are not in this truth? I want to give to the poor, but I don't know if I can go out right there by myself. There is, right, a lot of mentally unstable Israelites where I live, right? So we're going to dive into it. Who do you give to in the spirit, right, of Purim? Let's go to the mighty book, right, of Esther. The mighty book of Esther. Now, you want to be wise. You don't want to be over righteous and foolish. Certain things you have to use wisdom with. You don't want to overthrow yourself, right? The Lord said, go feed my lamb. If you love me, feed my lambs. Now, that doesn't mean swim across, the Tigris River, till you get to the other, because you see one man waving like this. And then when you finally get over there, if you make it, right, he's over there waving like this because he's mentally ill, man. And he doesn't even speak your language. Right, this is the book of Esther, chapter 9, and I'm going to start at verse 20. I'm going to start at 20. Even 22 is the point. But I'm going to start at 20. It says, and Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto all the Jews that were in the province of King Artaxerxes, both nigh and far, to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar and the 15th day of the same yearly, as days wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy. Right? Check this out. And sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. Now, in the spirit of Purim, when you actually diving into it, keeping everything in context, you did what? You send to your nation. Now, your nation, now, them that don't know the truth, them that are in the world, they won't grasp the spirit of turning sorrow into joy. So that gift wouldn't be profitable unto them being received. Now, there's a gift, that's for you, right? And then there's a gift that may overthrow you. Man, you give your brother a gift, he rubbing, he licking his chops, man, ain't Purim around the corner, man. He got 3 blunts rolled upstairs. He's about to go off with the gift you gave him, or turn that 20 you gave him into 40 in the streets. You want to be wise as you give portions. The whole point of a gift is for it to be received and understanding where it cometh from. Let me get the book of James, the first chapter. Let me get this quick precept. It's the book of James, right? Chapter 1. And I'm going to start at verse. Bear with me. I'm going to start at 17. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, and cometh down from the Father of lights. So the Most High isn't giving gifts and things to man that doesn't understand who he is, right? That have no pleasure in righteousness, that don't want to fast, that don't want to pray. The Most High is not increasing those men. If they increase, they're getting blessed by the spiritual demon Satan. See, the Lord blesses a man that understands, okay, I need to work hard. So he sows in the field and reaps 100-fold like Isaac, right? A hard worker. A man that understands the sleep of a laboring man is sweet, whether it be little or much. The Most High is blessing the fruit of your hands, right? Like the Levites. When you read the book of Malachi, man, right? The 3rd chapter, going into the blessing of the Lord, opening up the windows, right? And pouring you out a blessing. That blessing that's poured out is what is rain in the harvest season, which increases your crops, which increases your cattle, and increases all of the things that you need to sustain yourself to be able to survive. So a blessing that the Lord gives us is by what? By doing righteousness. And that goes back to Sirach, the 12th chapter. When thou doest good, know to whom thou doest. When you can't just be doing good and good acts in the spirit of love and peace and harmony to the wicked. It says, with whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning. Right? So when the Most High giveth gifts and the Most High blesseth, he understandeth who he blesseth upon earth. It isn't just, on a random. You don't want to just give to anybody. Now, to those that don't know that they're Israelites, you want to try the spirit and you go out there and you give gifts to them that are poor, them that don't understand who they are. But to just be giving gifts to your family and have no understanding of what Purim is, that isn't wise. I'd rather take that same gift or the money I would spend to the poor that actually need it to try to, teach them the truth for them to bear witness. Let me get one more quick precept. Let's go to the book of Malachi. It's the book of Malachi, right? Chapter 3 and verse number 10, right? I mean, this whole thing is fire, but read verse 10. Bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse, that there may be meat right in my house, and prove me now therewith. Meaning you have to have obedience. And now the Lord saying, like, prove me now therewith. Meaning, see what I would do, saith the Lord of hosts, if I would not open the windows of heaven, right? The firmament, and pour you out a blessing, that there should not be room enough to receive. That's why the Lord said, bring. Bring is an action. You have to do an action to receive a blessing, right? Let me get one more on that through the Spirit. Right, one more on that. Let's go to the mighty book of Sirach. I quoted the 12th chapter, but I want to get something in the 9th chapter as well, right? This is the book of Sirach, chapter 9 and verse 16. It says, and let just men eat and drink with thee, right? Meaning when you feast, you don't want to just feast with your family. You don't want to just keep parents, nobody around. I'm the only one in the truth. Come on, Uncle. Come on, Uncle Ray. And Uncle Ray come over drunk, right? He dancing. He got the game plan. He in the wrong spirit. Or what you get me this year? I ain't really like what you got me last year. Right? The Lord said, and let just men eat and drink with thee, and let thy glory be in the fear of the Lord, man. Right? So you don't want to, join yourself, feast with, or give to, just anybody. So I would say, again, don't just give to your family unknowingly of what Purim is all about. And now, as far as giving to them that are mentally unstable in your area, use wisdom. Drive around a couple times, peep the scene. You may see a sister over here. You may see somebody isolated. There's not a number of people you have to give to. You have to give to 55 people. Right now, you're driving up at 6 in the morning. You sweating. You ain't eat all day. You're trying to find that brother or that sister. The Lord just said give. If out of the sincerity of your heart, you find one person that you could give a portion to and, try to go over the scriptures, that'll be beautiful through the Spirit. So don't overthink the feast. Don't make it burdensome. Just move in a spirit of sincerity and trying to keep that commandment. Right? We diving into the next question. Shalom. We got the mighty WFI Detroit in the building. Shalom King, in Genesis 33 and 10, what does Jacob mean when it says he have seen the face, right, of God concerning Esau? Right, let's go into it. Let's go to the book of Genesis, chapter 33. All right, this is Genesis, right, chapter 33, and I'm going to start at verse number 10. It says, and Jacob said, nay, I pray thee, if now I have found grace in thy sight. See what was going on. When you read the book of Genesis 33, it's really going into Esau coming before Jacob, right? And Jacob, really bowing himself when you go to verse 3, right? It said, let me start at verse 3. No, I'm going to start at verse 1. And Jacob lifted up his eyes. See, and Jacob was a man of wisdom. He knew how to move and he had wisdom and prudence. He lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, Esau came, and with them 400 men. So if 400 men is coming toward you, immediately, not that you're fearful of man, but you have to use common sense. If 3,000 alligators or if 3,000 snakes, if 400 army men suited up, right, as soldiers with spears is coming toward me, your mind will immediately look at them as terror. Now, when Jacob said this, I have seen thee as an angel of God. That's not saying that Esau is glorious in his apparel. Esau, is glorious and majestic, and he's immortal. When you see an angel, it's really for what? Destruction or a blessing. So when he saw Esau coming with 400 men, it was as if he had seen an angel of God. If the angel of God is coming toward you, no brother is just going to just sit there. Hey, Gabriel, what you been up to, man? I read about you, you go to the book of Luke. No, a man is going to immediately either bow through fear, hide, right? Think he's going to get chopped in two. So when Jacob said this, It was like a parable rather, or comparison. Let's go to the mighty book of Additions to Esther, the 15th chapter. This Additions to Esther, chapter 15, and I'm gonna start at verse right 6. It says, then having passed through all the doors, she stood before the king, who sat upon his royal throne, and was clothed with all his robes and majesty, all glitter and gold and precious stones, and he was very dreadful. So when Esther came before Artaxerxes, he sat upon his royal throne, man, all of his glitter, his gold, right, his staff, his spears, and he looked real dreadful to look upon. Because keeping in context, if you came before the king without a request being granted to you, he could chop you in two. Then lifted up his countenance that shone with majesty, he looked very fiercely upon her. So when you look upon somebody, with that visage, what do you want? What do you come up before the king to say? Who do you think you are? It says, and the queen fell down and was pale, and fainted, and bowed herself upon the head of the maid that went before her. And she fell down like, this could be my death. No, I could die right now. Right, jumping down to the point, verse number 13, it says, then said she unto him, I saw thee, my lord, as an angel of God. Now, did Esther really see Artaxerxes as an angel? No. Why was she so pale? Why was she so scared? Because she knew she could die. So seeing an angel isn't a light matter. If you see an angel again, it's either your life about to come before remembrance and the Lord take it, angel cut you in two, angel bug you out, man. Lord put you in an apparition or a trance. Next thing you know, you see an angel thrusting you through, man. And then you fall off a cliff, right? Or an angel is coming to save you. Right? You don't see just angels walking around or flying, in their majesty and glory, right? And then you just point it out, man. You see the chariots that are running about their business in the spirit, stirring up the elements and over principalities. But for an angel to come before you in the flesh is a very dreadful thing. So when Jacob said, I saw thee as an angel, right? That's the spirit that he meant it in, that he said it in, right? Let's go to the mighty book. Salaki, let's go to the next question. It's H, right? BKENT. Shalom King. Could Luke 22 and 36 and Ecclesiastes 3 and 8 be talking about Jacob's trouble? Right? Let's go into it. Let's go to the mighty book of Luke. Right? This is the mighty book of Luke, chapter 22. This is Luke chapter 22 and verse 36. It says, then said he unto them, but now he that put a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip, and he that have no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. Now, when you read this, I'm going to start up at verse, this whole thing is fire, but I'm going to start at 35, right? It says, and he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and scrip and shoes, right? When you read the book of Mark, the 6th chapter, this is how the Lord sent them, right? But what did he send them without purse and without scrip for? Let's go to Mark chapter 6. Let's understand the context of why this was said. Let's go to Mark chapter 6 and verse number, this whole thing, right? I'm going to start at 8. And commanded them that they should take nothing for their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse. So when the Lord sent out the apostles to labor and do the work of the Lord, see, the laborer is worthy of his hire. So you don't have to carry an abundance, load, 15 camels or 15 asses with all this bread, all this money, because you don't know where you're going to be. No, there'll be holy women that will receive you, wash your feet. You can lodge with them, lodge with men, right? You'll be strangers. They'll engrief you and endraft you, like you read about in 3 John. It says, but he shone with sandals and put not on 2 coats, right? Meaning if it get cold. And he said unto them, in what place whatsoever ye enter into the house, there abide, right, till ye depart, right, from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when ye depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Right? Verily I say unto you, it should be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. So, I mean, judgment is taking place for them that don't receive, right? Who? The apostles. So when you jump to verse 33 and 34 and you keep reading it in the context and in the spirit, I'm gonna start at 34. And he said, I tell thee, Peter, the cock shall crow this day before that thou shalt right thrice deny that thou knewest me. Meaning the days of vengeance are coming on the earth. Right? The Lord is going to be crucified. The apostles are going to flee, right, and go thither. It's not the same spirit of you on the move and on the run, like it says in Zechariah, smite the shepherd, right? And the sheep should be scattered. When the sheep were scattered the first time and did the work and went out throughout the Lord, they were engrafted. They were helped. But in the days of vengeance, as they scatter, right, it's a different spirit of the apostles not being, it's like it being out and abroad. If you understand, it says, and he said unto them, when I sent you without purse and without scrip and shoes, lack ye anything? And they said nothing. Then said he unto them, but now he that hath a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip, and he that have no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. Right? Meaning, I sent you first. If you lack nothing, you didn't have a purse, right? You were given one. But that purse that you receive let you now, if you don't have a sword, go get you one. For I say verily, so like I say to you, that this that is written must ye be yet accomplished in me. And he was reckoned amongst the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. Right? And he said, then said the Lord, behold, there are two swords. And he said unto me, it is enough. Right? So the days of vengeance are coming upon the earth. When the shepherd, right, is crucified, the sheep are scattered, and a day of visitation and vengeance is upon the earth. Now, can you link this up with Jacob's trouble? You know, you can link it up with Jacob's trouble, but that doesn't mean your mind goes to immediately killing or a spirit of destruction, and you're just moving in a wrathful mentality. It's okay to be prepared. The Lord never told him to kill anybody, man, and destroy anybody, but to protect yourself in the days of vengeance as it comes upon the earth. So I most definitely would link that up in the spirit, but just knowing how to be prepared, not in the spirit of killing and destruction and vengeance, but of protection and being wise. Because it's more profitable to have a sword on you than a script and a purse and shoes and extra things that ye lack not as a journey. Right? I'd rather have one pair of shoes and a sword, right, than to be clothed up with a purse meaning a satchel, right, scripts, right, full of leather and things that you would hold money, and that's neither here nor there. It will be more profitable for you to have a sword. That's what the Lord is really going into. Right, in Ecclesiastes 3 and 8, right, a time to kill. Right? Now that time to kill, right, no man knows what that is. You can't use, it's just time to kill. Right now, and somebody did you harm, and now you want to execute vengeance. Let me read this. It says a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. Right? So that time of war, right, you can link it up to Jacob's trouble, but this is not our battle to fight. The war on a deeper level is when the Lord waged war, right, through the hand of the angels, when the Lord waged war through the hand of the elect, and we take down the elites of the earth. That's that really time to war on a deeper level, in a time of peace. It's not a time to war, because if it was, we would be given armory. The Lord said, Slakia, let me get this quick precept. It's the mighty book of John, chapter 18, and verse 36. Yahawashi answered, my kingdom is not of this world. A kingdom is what? A government, an army, right? A nation of people. Meaning my kingdom is not of this world. That this world is Esau's government until the Lord comes back and reigns. So you can't wage war or time to kill in your mind, really, from the time of Yahawashi all the way out. During the time of David was different. We had our own land. We had a king. The Most High dealt with us through, visions, dreams, and prophets. Right? It says, if my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight. So that's really cutting the ideology to kill right now. Because once we're under captivity and bondage, we're subject now to the worst, cruelest of punishments, and to be locked up and be no profit for the Most High to use you, right? It says that I should not be delivered, right, to the Jews. It says, but now is my kingdom not from thence. Meaning it's not his kingdom during the Roman Empire, but his kingdom is going to be when he takes down the Roman Empire. So I wouldn't really link that up too much with Jacob's trouble, because it's not really the spirit to wage war, but to protect yourself, be wise, and call upon the name of the Lord. It's really the time and season of faith and endurance, right? All right, next question, right? All right, we going into it. This is the book, Salaki. This is, I can't pronounce your name, Yekamiah X Shalom, Shalabat, right? Shalom. What is 1 Timothy 4 and 3 going into forbidden to marry, right? Now let's dive into it. Let's go into it. This is 1 Timothy, right? Chapter 4 and verse, I'm going to start at 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith. What does it mean, some shall depart from the faith? The faith isn't talking about they just going in the world on a spiritual level of what the context is talking about, man. It's not talking about that. The faith is what? The mercy of the Lord. The faith in the Lord covering you. Some shall depart from his blessings, his mercy, and his faith and his liberty, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So you had a lot of men entrapped in men, putting yokes upon men, making them feel like they got to do this. And if you don't do this, and if you live this way, if you don't live this way, they're putting yokes upon man, meaning making the law burdensome to where you don't have the faith of liberty and freedom. Speaking lies and hypocrisy. Why hypocrisy on a contextual level? Because it's going against the freedom that the Lord set you through, man. See, if you came into this truth circumcised or uncircumcised, right, that's not going to blow your mind and dictate your faith, whether you're going to be saved or destroyed, right? It says, having their conscience seared, right, with a hot iron. And these men, their minds is going against the faith that the Most High gave them, because their conscience is seared, creating their own doctrines, creating their own yokes, and creating their own soothsays, right, for people in the last days. I mean, you can't make a law yourself and give it to man. The seducing spirits is really, what really seduces man in the truth is hearing something that's of the Most High painted a little bit different. If Satan coming to you, right, with a big yarmulke on and a cross, and he says, this is the way, my son, right, that's easy to discern. But when his brother got fringes on, he been in the truth 35 years, right? He's an elder, right? He has knowledge of the law. He's a Pharisee. I mean, you could get seduced by something that man says, because you depart from the faith and what the Lord set you free from to really look at, well, maybe I do need to be doing this. Maybe you're right. It says forbidden to marry. Why does it say forbidden to marry? Because these men during this time wanted you to be perfect and to abstain from all concupiscence, lasciviousness, and marriage. That was the ultimate level of purity, not marrying, meaning they were taking the truth and making it burdensome. They were taking something that, you washing yourself, but now you have to be so clean, so white, meaning pure, right, with a garment on that you can never stain yourself in this life. But who told you that marrying was staining yourself? Who told you that, eating meat was staining yourself? See, when you're abstinent and you don't eat meat, right, that's in their minds a level of purity, being perfect. You only eat herbs. It's more healthy for you. Abstain from marriage. You could be holy in a vessel and a virgin before the Lord. I mean, it's too burdensome, huh? His brother is 20 years old. He's never experienced a woman. He wants to marry. He has his own house. He got his affairs in order. He's been in the truth since a child. Brother, go find you a wife, man. But if you put yokes upon brothers and they start to give heed to these things, they'll depart from the liberty and faith of the Lord, man. Well, maybe I shouldn't, man. I know the Lord said, be fruitful and multiply. I know there are laws of marriage, but I want to be perfect. Now you start scratching your head and you start to give heed to these doctrines of devils, man. That's all it is, which God have created to be received with thanksgiving, right, of them which believe and know the truth. So you have to really, watch these people, man. right? And really know, the spirit of that hypocrisy and those evil doctrines. Now, when you actually going into it, right, there were men that were abstinent in the Bible, right, that never knew woman. All right, let me get this quick precept. Now, this is talking about the elect when it says this. It says, and that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars. That's not literal. They'll take something from the Old Testament of abstinence, right, which is pureness and really a spirit of not being defiled and being a virgin, and say, well, those are the elect. You read Revelation, the 14th chapter, it goes into them they have never known women. That's not literal. It says, and that the faces of them which have used abstinence shall shine above the stars, whereas our faces shall be blacker than darkness. Does that mean that just because you've known a woman, your face is going to be black and dark? And that those that have never known a woman and will never know a woman, right, shall shine above the stars? Now you have a physical man, right? Right, when you're going into it, right? Esdras, right? I gotta find that account, right? I don't want to spend too long on this question, but Ezra, he was abstinent, right? He didn't know woman, man. And know a woman. Let's go to Second Esdras chapter 6 and verse 32. Let me pull that up real quick. Now Ezra is the elect, and just because you're the elect, there are many men that are the elect, man, that were married. Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. Right, let's go to Second Esdras 6 and verse 32. It says, for thy voice is heard before the Most High, meaning Ezra. For the mighty have seen thy righteous dealing. He hath seen also thy chastity, which thou hast had ever since thy youth. So Esdras, right, what the world would call was like a virgin, man. He didn't know women. Let me get this real quick. That doesn't mean, he's off if he dealt with a woman. Chastity. Right, chastity. Meaning what? Celibacy, chasten, virgin, abstinent, the unmarried state. So you have certain men that are doctors of the law that study that could put a yoke of iron upon somebody's neck, man. You know what? If you really want to be perfect, don't deal with no woman. Don't eat no meat. Because too much going on with this meat. Is it strangled? Is it not? Supporting the food markets? Where is it lime? Is it plain? Is it, it's too many spirits. So just don't eat it at all. Now he's putting more yokes and more seducing spirits into the unstable and the weak and them that are just coming to this truth. Maybe you're right, man. I just don't know. And you get overthrown through what, man? Through the doctrine of devils. Because that's a doctrine. A doctrine is a teaching. So that's like the context of, what that is really going into. And let's go to the next question. Right? What is the meaning of Revelation, right? Chapter 10 and verse number 9. Right? And let's dive into it. Revelation chapter 10 and verse number 9. Right? You said, is his belly bitter from what he's seen in his vision? Right? This is the book of Revelation chapter 10 and verse number 9. It says, and I went unto the angel and said unto him, give me the little book. Right? Meaning a scroll. A scroll is the little book. Right? When you're going into it. And he said unto me, take it, eat it up, and it shall make thy belly bitter, but it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey. Right? Meaning what? Before you can receive salvation, there's death. There's Jacob's trouble. There's vengeance. Right? There are people that are slaughtered. There are beheadings. There are persecutions. Right? It shall make thy belly is the mind. It shall make it bitter. Right? But what? But it shall be in thy mouth sweet as honey, man. You first receive it, it tastes good. Right? I'm an Israelite. All praise to the Most High, salvation. Right? The Lord's coming back. Right? I may be numbered with the elect. This is my lot. But when you actually digest it, and really get to the core of your stomach, when it starts to sit and it goes to your mind, you start to really consider all you have to go through, man, to obtain the kingdom. So when I first came into the truth, I had no idea how deep the truth is. I just immediately loved the wisdom. I was engulfed with the understanding. I seen brothers shaking their hand, pulling precepts to the top of their head. I'm like, what the hell? I've never seen this before, man. I've never in my life seen a so-called black man with all of this wisdom. Where does it come from, man? What school did he go to? Who is he? Who's teaching him? How is this happening, man? He looked just like me, dressed just like me, man. Right? Came into the truth a year, 5 years. This amount of wisdom can't be obtained in 25 years, man, in the world. What spirit is this, man? And I was curious. I dived into it, loved history, but never really truly perceived until, the Most High had mercy, later on what this truth is really all about, man. The Most High told you your first day in the truth, you're going to have to die for his name. Or that there are going to be buildings that are going to crash and overthrow, and man is going to be a pilgrim on the earth. You may say, maybe this ain't for me, man. So the Most High has to deal with you sweet for you to take, and receive it. And then once it settles, then you really can understand and perceive. This is the book of Ezekiel, right? Chapter 2 and verse, I'm going to start at 8. It says, but thou son of man, hear what I say unto thee. But so like it be not thou rebellious like the rebellious house. Open thy mouth and eat that I give thee. So he's giving Ezekiel something to eat. That's not literal. That's the scroll. It says, and when I looked, behold, a hand was sent unto me, and lo, a roll of a book was therein. So that's that roll, that little book, meaning the book of Revelation, that roll was given. You didn't have book, chapter, verse in the ancient world. You had that long scroll. It says, and he spread it before me, and it was written therein and without, and there was written therein lamentations and mourning and woe. Meaning, Ezekiel wasn't really given too much of salvation when you read the book of Ezekiel. You have the latter chapters going into the priests, the portions of land that's beautiful, that's double to that which is going into the kingdom. But really, salvation mixed with destruction is really given to Isaiah, right? Parts of Jeremiah is really going into destruction of the nations, right? Destruction of the Babylonian captivity. His scroll specifically that he got was just full of lamentations, mourning, and woe, man, right? Of destruction of Judah, the Babylonian captivity, and them going into slavery. But when you read Revelation, you really have sweetness in there. You have the 7 churches. You have the mercy of the Most High walking in the midst thereof, right? You have the seals being open. You have salvation. You have a lot of things going in of conquering and redeeming. So it's sweet, but it's also bitter. When you read Revelation 9, Revelation 10, going into the destruction of World War III, that was of him to receive, right? To understand these things, right? Right, next question. Shalom Malak. Can you please send me to a surprise scripture that shows Yahawashi was there in the beginning, Baba Kashah Wathawada, right? Right, a surprise scripture. Let's go to the mighty book of Genesis, chapter 1 and verse 1. Now, the beginning of Genesis is talking about Yahawashi. It's not just an in the beginning, right? And you read it like an old Polish man, in the beginning, right? With a deep voice, like when you come on YouTube and you type in read the book of Proverbs. You have to read it in the spirit. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Now, when you read Revelation, that's the last book of the Bible. You have the first book of the Bible and you have the last book of the Bible. Let's find out in the last book of the Bible what it's saying in the spirit. Let's go to the mighty book of Revelation, chapter 21. It's the book of Revelation, right? Chapter 21. And I'm going to start at verse, bear with me. I want Revelation chapter 21, and I'm going to start at verse 6, right? It says, and he said, right, unto me, it is done. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end. So he's telling you through the spirit, he's the beginning. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So this is a precept And we could read 1,000 precepts, but you have to have the spirit of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahawashi to receive that. You know, if not, yeah, I don't see that. It's not in there. You're stretching it. How can this happen? You can't read the Bible without linking up another witness to what it is you're reading, or else you're leaning on your own understanding. That's a private interpretation. If you don't have witnesses, which are the other prophets in the other books, to explain and verify what it is that you think you understand. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth, man. So the Elohim, right, Yahweh, Bahashem Yahawashi, created all of the elements, the world of matter, the sun, moon, and stars. These things were in the beginning. The same way the Lord is verifying that he is Alpha, right, Greek, the beginning, and Omega, the ending, the beginning and end. And I will give unto him, right, that a thirst of the fountain of water, right, of life freely. There are thousands of precepts, and brothers did a video on that, a breakdown going into Yahawashi in the Old Testament, right? All throughout the Old Testament, right? From Exodus, right, to Deuteronomy, to Joshua. I mean, he's all throughout the Old Testament of precepts and prophecy, you know, diving into it, right? I mean, we could pull them all day long, but you know, we're not going to stand here too long going into that because there's already videos on that. Like I said, we did it on a Monday Night Fire, right? Or the Sabbath service, if I'm not mistaken, one of the two. I believe it was the Sabbath service. If you go on the main channel and Watchmen for Israel and just go into this is the worst doctrine of all time, that video, we went through, you know, a whole lot of precepts, hundreds, you know, of precepts diving into Yahawashi being in the Old Testament. You know, for sake of time, you know, we're just going to pull that one, right? Right. Next question. What are Nethinims? I heard they were temple servants and then also temple slaves. Right. Now we're going to dive into that. Let's go to First Kings. Did I see the First Kings 9 or Second Kings 9? I believe it's First Kings 9. And I'm going to start at verse number 11. We really diving into, you know, everything. Now, I'm going to look up that word. Right, I want to dive into that. It says Nephilim, the name given to the hereditary temple servants, right, in all the post-exilian books of scripture, right? It says those set apart, right, to the minimal work of the sanctuary, the Levites, and the name occurs 17 times in each case, right? You got Ezra 2, 70, 77, 8, says the tradition is that the Gibeonites, Joshua 9 and 27, were the original right castle afterwards called Nethinim. Their numbers were added afterwards from the captives taken in battle, and they were formerly given by David to the Levites, right? Ezra 8 and 20, and so were called Nethinim. Now let's go to the mighty book of First Kings, chapter 9 and verse number, see what I'm going to start off at. I'm going to start off at 11. Now Hiram, the king of Tyre, had furnished Solomon with cedar trees and with fig trees and with gold according to all right his desire. Then King Solomon gave Hiram 20 cities in the land right of Galilee. And Hiram came out right from Tyre to set the cities which Solomon had given him, and they pleased him not. And he said, what cities are these which thou hast given me, my brother? And he called the land, right, Kelbu, unto this day. And Hiram sent unto the king 80 talents of gold. And this is the reason of levy which King Solomon raised, and to build the house of the Lord, and his own house in Milo, and the wall of Jerusalem, Hazar, Midigo, and Gezerah. Right, so going into what? You had men that were levy, right, meaning slaves, that helped build these things up, that helped the work of the temple, right? Not spiritual, because you're going to have slaves helping build up the kingdom of heaven. Now, when you actually go into it, No heathen is allowed to go into the temple. So we know, the work that they were doing was to help the Levites, not to go specifically go in there. Let's go to First Esdras chapter 5. This First Esdras chapter 5 and verse 1. After this were the principal men of the families chosen according to their tribes to go up with their wives and sons and daughters, with the men servants and maid servants and their cattle. Right? So you had principal men, they had men servants and maid servants, and they had cattle. It says, and Darius sent right with them 1,000 horsemen till they had brought them back to Jerusalem safely, right, in musical instruments and tabrets and flutes. Let's jump to verse 29. It says, the servants of the temple, the sons of Esau, right? Right, the sons of Asa. Now, the servants of the temple, when you actually go into it, right, when you read this, right, these are men that served in the temple, right? I'm going to pull verse number 9. The number of the nation of their governors, the sons of, right, Photorus, 200, right, and 120, so like it's 70 and 2, and the sons of Sifra, 470 and 2, going into the lineage of the men brought back from the Babylonian exile, right, that did the work of the Lord in the temple. So these men are listed, their lineage. Whenever you go really to like a work being done, like when you go to Nehemiah, right, and it's going into all of the men that helped build a fish gate, help build, the tower and all of these different things, right? These men lineage was listed, right? And then you have Ezra, them that built the temple, right? And that sons of Esau is not talking about the so-called white man. You have what they would call names that are popular or that were given to man. There were many men, maybe called, Ezra, called Joshua, sons of Esau. That's not literally the so-called white man. These are the lineage of the fathers that helped build the temple. So when you go into a levy and go into slaves, right, going into those men that helped the Levites. When you go to the book of, let me get first, matter of fact, let me get Isaiah chapter 61. This is the book of Isaiah, right? Chapter 61. And I'm going to start at verse number 4, right? It says, and they shall build the oasis, and they shall raise up the former desolations, and they shall repair the waste cities, the desolation of many generations. And strangers shall stand and feed your flocks, and the sons of the alien shall be your plowmen, right, and your vine dressers. But ye shall be Salakia, but ye shall be named the priest of the Lord. So this is a spiritual level, right? I'm not a physical Levite. Most High willing, I make it. Most High willing, through the mercy and power of Yahawashi, I'll be classified as a priest, meaning I will be anointed and be, the firstborn of the Lord on a spiritual level, right? Granted to be the mercies, to do the sacrifices and the work, right? And make myself blameless, putting on the armor of God and coming before him to the holiest of all. I would be able to have what? Slaves, strangers, they're feeding the flocks. They're helping build up the nation the same way, right? The Nephilim helped the Levites build up the temple, right? And these levy of slaves help men be built up as well. And men shall be called the ministers of our God. Ye shall eat the riches of the Gentiles, and in their glory shall ye boast yourselves. Going back to First Kings, all right? I want to start at verse number 20. It says, and all the people that were left of the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, which were not of the children of Israel, their children, right, that were left after them in the land, whom the children of Israel were not able to utterly destroy, right, upon those did Solomon levy a tribute of bond service until this day. So it says the Hivites, the Perizzites, right, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Going back to this, I wanted to touch on that again. It said their numbers were added afterwards. The captives were taken in battle, and they were formerly given by David to the Levites, right? And so were called Nethinims, the given ones, given to the Levites to be their servants only, right? Nephilim returned from Babylon, Ezra chapter 2 and verse 58, right? They were under the control of the chief, right, from amongst themselves, right? So when you diving into it, right, those men were given unto us. You have many men, you understand, that belong unto us, what the world would call, they're runaway slaves, man. Right? We diving straight into it. What feast days or weeks can we work and cannot work? But that's a very, very in-depth question. And I can't necessarily through time go through all of the feast days. It's a whole lot of feast days and a whole lot of ordinances. That's a very great question. And most are willing, I can make an in-depth breakdown because I don't want to say, one or two, and then, somebody screenshot what I just said and make a whole video on it. And, well, what about this? What about this feast day? Brothers are extremely over righteous, right? And extremely just looking for your downfall. That's a question that will require a whole lot of breaking down and a whole lot of ordinances going into it. And that's a very great question again. But like I said, for sake of time and it being a rapid fire, I'm a Lord willing do a whole video on this of the ordinances that feast days, what are required to work and what are not, for sake of time using wisdom. Right? Dana, right? Danya Yasha Allah. Salaki, I don't know where the word surprise came from. Okay, there you go. Question. Can you break down second Esdras 4 and 8? Salakia 4 and 48 through 50. Let's go to second Esdras. Right, chapter 4 and verse number 48. Right, and it reads, it says, so I stood and saw, and behold, an hot burning oven passed before me. Right, meaning what? The Lord is giving a parable. Now, this parable, when you go into it, is Ezra trying to behold the times of man. Now, man, wants to hasten toward the end. Man wants immediately for destruction to happen. Man wants to be delivered ASAP. And Ezra is asking, right, Uriel, the angel, through the hand of the Most High, how is these things going to kick off? Is it more time on the earth or is it less time on the earth? When you start at verse 45, it explains it. It says, shew me, right, then whether there be more to come than past. Meaning, is it more to come from my time or is it more past? Meaning, how do I level being on this earth? Right? Is it the end in 400 BC? 444? Is that around the time you about to come back and, what's going on? Is it more time on the earth and how many is 200 more years and 300 more years? And then you're going to have the rapture. What's going to happen, Lord? I need to know. It says, or more past than is to come. What is past, I know. Meaning Ezra knew about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He knew about Noah. He knew about the men that were before him. But what is to come, I know not. I don't really perceive and really know the in-depth of what's going to happen on the earth and how many more prophets are going to be after me. Right? It would be profitable to start at verse 45 all the way down. And he said unto me, stand up on thy right side, and I shall expound the similitude unto thee, meaning the parable. So I stood and saw, and behold, a hot burning oven, right, passed before me. And it happened that when the flame was gone by, I looked, and behold, the smoke remained still. So you have a hot burning oven. What passed before him and what remained was what? Was the smoke. So it's parabolically saying, you may have a cloud, and then it's raining, and then it's the dew left. You have a smoke of a burning oven, then what's left is the smoke. Meaning majority is past and what remains still was the residue. This world is about to be destroyed. After this, there passed before me a water cloud and set down much rain with a storm. Then the storm rain was past, the drops still remain. Right? Meaning a little bit of that storm, a little bit of that burning fire in that oven. Then said he unto me, consider thyself as the rain is more than the drops. Meaning the rain itself is more than the individual drops, right? Meaning it's more rain than an individual drop that's left. And as the fire is greater than the smoke, meaning the fire of the flame creates the smoke, but the drops and the smoke remain behind, so that the quantity which is past did more exceed. Meaning that fire was really greater of destruction and what has happened than the smoke which remained by. It farther did exceed. Meaning he's answering his question in a parable. He's not coming out saying, it ain't that much time left on the earth, Ezra. He's saying it real as a dark parable. Then I prayed and said, may I live, thinkest thou, until that time? Or what shall happen in those days? And he answered me and said, as for the tokens whereof thou askest of me, I may tell of them in part. But as touching thy life, I am not sent to shew thee, for I do not know it. Now, I can't get too deep in if you're going to live and what's really going to happen in those days to come. But all I could tell you is the similitude, right? Diving into that vision, right? So, that's really like a parable going into the end days and measuring the time. Let me get a quick precept on that. Let's go to 2nd Esdras, chapter 4 and verse 35. This 2nd Esdras, chapter 4 and verse 35, right? It says, did not the souls, right, also the righteous ask questions of these things in their chambers? So the questions being asked is the end times. How much time is on the earth? How do we wait at times? Saying, how long shall I hope on this fashion? Meaning, how long are we going to wait and hope to be redeemed? When cometh the fruit of the floor of our reward? It says, then, and unto these, Uriel the archangel gave them answer and said, even when the number of seeds is filled in you, meaning all of the fruit, came about from the things that were planted into you, right? For he have weighed the world in the balance. By measure have he measured the times, and by number have he numbered the times, and he doeth not move nor stir them until the said measure be fulfilled. It's of the Most High's times how to do these things, not man. Right, let's dive into the next question. Little Mo, can I use microwave to warm up tea on the Sabbath day? Right, this may be a hot topic for a lot of people. This may be something that a lot of people may I guess stumble at, or why can't I use the microwave? What's wrong with it? Who are you? It doesn't say you can't use a mic. All I am is pushing a button, right? That would be the epitome of the so-called white man creating an AI, slacking for the language, an AI sex robot, man. And he was just getting off with a robot or going into some simulation, right? Just because he creates things and makes it easier to warm up, that you're not kindling a fire, doesn't take away the spirit that you're using it in. You're still cooking on the Sabbath day. You're still defining ordinances that's from old. You can't put on a simulation, right? Then you're sitting up there with a simulation, just getting off with it. And then you take the simulation off, man, and say, I have not committed whoredom. I have not went off in my lust. I have no, if not a woman. Right, brother? You're using trickery and sorcery to get around the ordinances of the Lord, man. The Lord is not a man that he shall lie, man. You're not about to fool the Lord, man. Well, let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Matthew, chapter 12. And I'm going to start at verse. This whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at 3. It says, but he said unto them, have you not read what David did when he was in hunger? And they that were with him, how he entered into the house of God and did eat the shewbread that it was not lawful for him to eat, neither, right, for them which were with him, but only for the priests. Or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath day the priests of the temple profane the Sabbath? Now, how do they profane the Sabbath? By kindling a fire, right? You have to keep the fire going, and you had to do sacrifices, the one in the morning and the one in the evening, the 2 sacrifices in the law, right? When you read the book of Numbers, the 28th chapter, meaning those priests, they had to continue to do the sacrifices, which was an ordinance. And what did they do? They had to eat of it. So that's profaning the work of the Lord. They had to keep that fire kindled. Now somebody could say, well, it was the physical work of carrying everything and keeping it. No, that's not necessarily what it's going into. You could put a coal. Anybody knows about fire. You could throw 1 log on there and it'll be good for another hour, maybe 2. Throw another log on there. It's not that much of physical work, even though the Lord said in Numbers that a man was gathering sticks. What are you gathering sticks for, man? The only thing I could think of is either you're building a house or you're trying to kindle a fire. Meaning this man gathering sticks, right, wasn't necessarily what you were going to as the murderous crime, but what was he going to do with it, man? How many sticks did he gather? What spirit was he in? This man was gathering sticks to do what, man? To kindle a fire. You don't gather sticks to play with them or juggle. It says, or have ye not read in the law how that on the Sabbath day the priests of the temple profane the Sabbath and are blameless? So you have coals, you have to continuously kindle, and that fire has to continuously combust, and you have to do sacrifices and do sacrifices. That's a part of the law, and you have to eat of them. Right? Let me get this quick precept. So, I mean, whether it's easy or not, and you put a stick, and all you gotta do is just move that stick to roast, or whatever the case, no matter how easy it may be, but that's still going against the commandments, right? This is the book of Numbers, chapter 28, and verse 3. It says, and ye shall say unto them, this is the offering made by fire, which ye shall offer unto the Lord. 2 lambs of the first year, without spot, day by day. Right? Meaning what? Even on the Sabbath day by day, you still had to offer up sacrifices. So the work of the Lord didn't stop for the priesthood, even on, right, the Sabbath day, which is spiritual in itself because the priests dedicated themselves unto the Lord. Yahawashi is the high priest. The Most High is king of all, and the Most High don't stop working. When it says he rested, that don't mean the Most High, he finally rested and he finally took a break. No, the Sabbath wasn't made for the Most High, it was made for man. It says spot day by day for a continual burnt offering. So day by day they had to offer up sacrifices, put coals of fire, and they had to cook and do the things to eat of the sacrifices for the continual burnt offering. When you go to a burnt offering, the ordinances of it in Leviticus, the first chapter, this is the book of Leviticus, chapter 1 and verse number 3. It says, if his offering be of a burnt sacrifice, which we're going into, of the herd, let him offer a male without blemish, and he shall offer it of his own voluntary will at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation before the Lord. And he shall put his hands upon his head of the burnt offering, and it shall be accepted, right, for him to make an atonement for him. And he shall kill the bullock before the Lord, and the priest Aaron's son shall bring the blood and sprinkle the blood round about the altar that is by the door of the tabernacle of congregation. It's the point. And he shall slay the burnt offering and cut it into pieces, man. So that's work. Cutting this burnt offering into pieces, right? Doing the ordinances thereof, roasting it. All of this is fire. It says, and the sons of Aaron shall put the fire upon the altar and lay the wood in order upon the fire. That's work, right? So, I mean, just to say a push of a button, a brother could, be real crafty and trying to get around an ordinance, but it's still the same spirit of cooking, right? The cooking is the point. Labor is the point. But let me get this quick precept in Romans. Now, a lot of people have pleasure. Say I seen a brother committing adultery, and I was laughing about it. Now, a brother could say, well, all I did was laugh at it. Where's the sin in that? What's wrong with that? Who cares if I laughed? Is the Most High going to judge me? You may see somebody doing something and you secretly laugh or has his demise, or a lot of people do things and they say, well, it's not a law, and they get around it. It's the book of Romans, right? Chapter 1 and verse 32. Who knowing the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death, not only do the same, this is the point, but have pleasure in them that do them. So the Lord will judge men that have pleasure in doing things they know they ought not to do, or to see people sinning and have pleasure in it, have pleasure in somebody's downfall. They have pleasure in, things of the world. They have pleasure in, knowing the judgments of God and this man being destroyed. These people know the judgments of God, man. Whether you're not supposed to be doing that. You know the spirit behind it. You know the judgment of God, that they which commit such things are worthy of death. So you can't say, well, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. And you know the judgment of God, not only do the same. Meaning these men, they know the judgment, but they do it anyway. But have pleasure. Then you get off on him, huh? In them that do them. So you don't want to be that type of brother that knows the judgments, knows what you ought to do, knows is worthy of death, boast in glory and mercy, or whatever the case may be, right? And have pleasure in doing the same. Right? Next question. Who is more wicked in their wickedness, Israel who knew God, or the other nations who Israel God ambassadors never thought? Brother Ariah, I think you're asking me who's more wicked. Is it Israel or is it the other nations? Right? I think that's what you asked me. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Right? Now we're gonna dive straight into it. Let's go to the mighty book of Wisdom of Solomon. Right? Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 12. And matter of fact, before I get that, I'm gonna get the mighty book of Ecclesiastes. Now that's a good question. Right? None of these are bad questions. Right? It's the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1 and verse 15. It says that which is crooked cannot be made straight. That's point blank, period. These nations are crooked. They never knew the laws of God. They can't keep the laws of God. And they have to be beaten into submission. And we have to be a light to even show them the words of God. It can't dwell in them. They're crooked. I mean, you gotta beat something that's crooked to make it straight, man. I've never seen something that's crooked that just said, and it just start getting straight out of nowhere, man. You have to, you gotta force it, man. You gotta take that iron and you gotta beat that thing straight, man. That's why these nations have to be beaten with a rod of iron, man. That's not just to get your lust off and your licks off, or your manager at work, man. He made you come in, right, and work the 12-hour shift when you're supposed to get off 3 hours ago, and now you want to beat him into submission, man. No, really, you beat him into submission to do what? To make things that are crooked straight. It says, and that which is wanting cannot be numbered, man. Who's wanting? The so-called white man. He's wanting, but he can't be numbered. Meaning he's 6 and lacking perfection unto being 7. So that which is crooked, right, it can't be made straight. So these nations can't ever truly take on the glory, right, of the Most High. But we knew the glory of the Most High. A lot of our fathers were straight. They were perfect, right? They did the work of the Most High. You got Job, you got Noah, right? A lot of our fathers, man, right? Samuel, these men were blameless. Now, when you go into Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4, I want to start at verse 3. It says, for it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both the old inhabitants of the Holy Land. Who dwelt in it? Read the book of Deuteronomy, the 7th chapter. Those nations, the Hivites, the Canaanites, the Jebusites, they dwelt in our land, and the Lord said, it was thy will to destroy by the hands of our fathers both those old inhabitants of the Holy Land. Meaning we had to get them out of our land. Whom thou hatest for doing most odious works of witchcraft. So who are known for doing witchcraft and sorcery? Right, these Africans. And on a twofold level, these nations, and wicked sacrifices. And also those merciless murders of children. Because they were passing them through what? Balaam? So like your Balil. And they were passing them, under the rod, and they were doing all these sacrifices to the spiritual demon Satan. And devourers of man's flesh and the feast of blood. Right? It says, with their priests out of the midst of that idolatrous crew, and the parents that were killed, right, with their own hands, the souls destitute of hope, right? That the land which thou esteemest above all other might receive a worldly colony of God's children. And he had to remove the wickedness out of the land, that the true inhabitants and the blameless and the worthy, which are the children of God, may dwell there. Right? It says this, nevertheless, right? It says, even those that thou sparest as men, and didst send wasps and forerunners in thine host to destroy them little by little, right? Not that thou was unable to bring the ungodly under the hand of the righteous in battle, or to destroy them, right, at once the cruel beasts, right, or with one rough word, right? The point is, jumping to verse 11, for it was a cursed seed from the beginning, neither didst thou fear of any man give them pardon for the things wherein they sinned. So it was a cursed seed from the very beginning, man. These nations, right, they can't change. They're wicked. When you read verse 10, it tells you that. But execute thy judgments upon them little and little. Thou gavest them place of repentance, not being ignorant that they were a naughty generation, and that their malice was bred in them, and that their cogitation, meaning their mindset, would never change. They can't change, man. The only way they can change is by being beaten, by being forced. And even in the day of judgment, when you read the book of Revelation 9 and 20, it said they repented not, man, of all of the murders and all of the things that they have done. So, I mean, yeah, Israel is off and they're wicked, but they're wicked, you know, understand, because they're rebelling against their creator. You know, deep down within you, certain stuff is wrong, man. You know, when you smoke weed and you ran out your mother's house when you was younger, you smoked it and you came in the house high, you knew that was wrong for you. You tried to hide and tiptoe around. You knew stuff is wrong. You about to jump a brother. Something really don't feel right, just trying to fit in. Certain stuff feels wrong. And why? Because it's your conscience, right? That's in the scriptures too, in the book of Second Esdras. Let me get this quick precept in the book of Romans, real quick. It's the book of Romans, chapter, right? Chapter 2, right? It's the book of Romans, chapter 2, and verse 14. For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things contained in the law. Meaning it's in your spirit to keep the law, even if you don't know how to keep the law. Nobody wants to eat red meat, man. Nobody really wants to disrespect their mother and their father. You don't want to do these things. It says these having not the law are a law unto themselves, which shew the work of the law written in their hearts. So even you being a Gentile, not knowing God, it's still things manifest deep down within your heart, meaning your mind, that you know you ought to do, which is a conscience. These nations don't have that, man. Esau don't have no conscience. He don't feel bad for the things he done, man. It says their conscience also bearing witness. That's why when you hear this immediately, damn, I knew that was right, man. All this time, I knew it was a reason why I was doing this. I knew why I was supposed to be doing that. And their thoughts, right? The meanwhile accusing or else excusing one another. So, I mean, through the spirit, right? These nations are completely crooked. And Israel, you know, is off, but nevertheless, right? They can be righteous. Right? The Most High would not be mad if you warm tea in the microwave that's petty. Well, that's your understanding, brother. Right? That's Job chapter 13 and verse 7. Right? Let me pull that real quick. And no man should ever speak for the Most High, brother. You're in error unless you're coming out of the words of God. Let's read that in the book of Job chapter 13 and 7. Right? And that's the book, right, of Sirach, the 18th chapter. It's the book of Job chapter 13 and verse 7. Will you speak wickedly for God and talk deceitfully for him? Huh? Meaning no man could declare what the Most High will or won't do, what's petty and what isn't, if he can't pull "Thus saith the Lord" out of the Bible. So I mean, brother, you don't want to be emotional. If that's your understanding, that's your understanding. But through the wisdom of the precepts and what's wise to do, and to be blameless and to keep the ordinances of our fathers, no matter what's invented by the so-called white man, you shall fare well. Right, let's go to the mighty book, Salakia. Another question through the spirit. Right, I see my mother making stuff and the dead, stuff for the dead and for the guardian angels. That is wicked to do. She makes coffee in the morning for the dead ones and talks to a lady who does voodoo, etc. Right? Yes, that's off. Right? You can't talk to the dead. Right? You're not even supposed to weep for the dead, you know, too long. That'll put a spirit on you. People visiting graveyards, they're talking to grandma and they come into the graveyard. Grandma's not there. Nor does grandma understand anything you're saying anymore. It's the book of Sirach 22 and 11. Weep for the dead, for he have lost his light. Right? And weep for the fool, for he wanted understanding. It said, make little weeping for the dead, for he is at rest. But the life of a fool is worse than death. 7 days do men mourn for him that is dead. So a complete time is 7 days. Now you did have the children of Israel when Aaron died. I believe they mourned for 30 days. Right? Get this quick precept. Yeah, 30 days. Right? Numbers chapter 20 and verse 29. So the whole children of Israel, they mourn 30 days. Right? So, I mean, through the spirit, certain times you may, mourn, but it's just never not enough. Oh my gosh, like Judas Maccabees, when he died, it's not like, okay, 7 days. So you don't want to be cruel. You want to give yourself an opportunity to really give it out and cry out. Because there are a lot of mighty brothers that were taken from the earth, man. But a complete time is 7. Do men mourn for him that is dead? But a fool, right? But for a fool and the ungodly man, all the days of his life, right? So, I mean, you don't want to mourn for the dead, give gifts to the dead, and, do anything of the dead. That's not a spirit of the Most High. It's really a spirit of a witch, right? I mean, I would harshly, you know, be firm, respectfully to your mother and, get her out of that. Lord says, save some, pulling them out of the fire. You might have to pull your mother out of the fire, man. Because your mother may not necessarily intentionally be doing these things to serve the spiritual demon Satan, but a lot of people, they're engulfed in things they know of not the wickedness there is. This is the book of 1 Samuel chapter 28 and verse. I'm going to start at, this whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at 7. It says, then says Saul unto his servants, seek me now a woman that have a familiar spirit. Meaning she's familiar with other spirits, right? And that's not a good spirit you want to have. She knows spirits. You have a discerner of spirits, then you have somebody that entertains familiar spirits. That I may go into her and inquire of her, and is a servant said unto them, behold, there is a woman that have a familiar spirit at Endor. And Saul disguised himself. Why? Because he knew it was off to visit a witch. No man should be visiting a witch, man. Going to get your palm read, going into sorcery, astrology. We're going to any of these things in the world. Why? Because it's against the Most High. The Most High answer you via the hand of the prophets, via dreams. There's nothing that you need in this world to get on the left hand side that the Most High can't give you on the right hand side. And put on other raiment, and he went and 2 men with him, and they came to the woman by night, and he said, I pray thee, divine unto me by the familiar spirit, and bring me him up whom I shall name unto thee. And the woman said unto him, behold, thou knowest what Saul have done, how he have cut off all those that have familiar spirits. Now, I want to look this up real quick. Familiar spirits. A spirit or demon that serves or promotes an individual. The spirit of a dead person invoked by a medium to advise or prophesy. So if your mother is talking to the dead, she could very well be engulfed in a familiar spirit. That familiar spirit is going to teach her, tell her, and direct her. That's what you call a delusion. You have delusions and all of these spirits, but those spirits, they rest on you. And if you're talking to a spirit and this spirit is telling you something back, yeah, that's really insanity and it's off. But you can't just chalk that up. It's just she's just off. No, there's a spirit that she's really talking to that's directing her thoughts. And it may be comforting her mind. You could love too much. That's a demon. You could batter out of evil too much. No, I love too much. Here, your kid is, urinating all throughout the house and stealing money from your grandmother. Right? You bat an eye to it because you just love Junior so much. Right? Love could be a demon. So her talking, it may seem harmless to her, but you have to really give her the understanding of how deadly this is and pull it up with scriptures, pull it up with definitions. And it's good to have a 3-punch combo. You want to hit with the scriptures, hit with the knowledge of the world, and you want to prove it through the facts. So that way, even if they don't believe the scriptures, they'll believe the wisdom of the world. And even if they don't believe the wisdom of the world, they'll believe the words of God. So you want to come from all angles to really help, whoever that is, engulfed in, working with mediums, man. Right? And advising. Those things are off. Right, Brother Uriah, why is Israel God's ambassadors to other thinking they sent to Israel only makes no sense. Well, that's 2 Corinthians 5 and verse 20. Or we are the Most High's ambassadors. Right? Let's go to it. This is 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse number 20. Right? And it reads, It says, now then are we ambassadors of Yahawashi. Ambassador is a forefront. That's a spokesman. Somebody's the face of a company, man. They're the ambassador of that company, and door establishment. As though God, right, did beseech you by us, we pray you in Christ's stead that ye be reconciled to God, right? So it makes perfect sense that we're the ambassadors of the Lord. It's literally Obadiah 1:1. Let's get Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 1. The vision of Obadiah, thus saith the Lord concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from the Lord, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen, man. Who's the ambassador sent, man? Think the Most High is using the heathens to tell the other heathens, and the heathens telling these and all hell was breaking loose, man? An ambassador is somebody that represents the Lord. The servants of the Most High are the ambassadors, man. The prophets, they're the face of the Lord. Meaning when you see a prophet, right, that's really the understanding about to be showed to you of what's about to happen upon the earth or concerning your life. An ambassador is sent among you, so like among the heathen, arise ye, right, and let us rise up against her in battle, man. Right? So yeah, we are the ambassadors of the Lord, brother. Right, next question. Right, sister, can you explain Romans 3 and 23 through 24? Right, Romans 3 and 23. Let's go to the mighty book of Romans. It's the mighty book of Romans, chapter 3 and verse 23. Right, I believe that's what you said. 3 and 23 through 24. It says, for all sinned and come short of the glory of God. So meaning what? Every man, that's saying the same as verse 10. It says, as it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. Meaning no man can refrain himself, nor not need the blood of Yahawashi. So for all have sinned. If all sin, then all need what? Redemption. The blood of Yahawashi. Grace, mercy. All have sinned and come short to the glory of God. The glory of God is what? Perfection, man. That's his glory, immortality, right? The undefiledness, the purity. That's the glory of God. When you see the Most High in a vision, you don't see no sin, man. You don't see no wickedness. You don't see no hypocrisy. Everybody has fallen short from the glory of the Lord, being justified freely by his grace. So what makes you justified? A daggone sure is not the flesh. Let's go to Romans, right? Chapter 4 and verse number 1. It says, what shall we say then? That Abraham our father pertaining to flesh I found. For if Abraham were justified by works, he would have whereof to glory, but not before God. So that word glory, right? Like I said, all have come short from the glory of God. I mean, Abraham can't even glory, man. Even though Abraham was perfect. Well, Abraham wasn't going to hell off and being a hypocrite and doing all type of evil things in the dark, right? The Most High dealt with him, man. He saw Abraham righteous before him in that generation. It says, for what saith the scripture? Abraham believed God, and it was counted unto him for righteousness. So it's not his works that were righteous, even though his works were righteous, but you can't say Abraham was righteous just by works. Because in all his works, he fell short and sinned. Everybody has sinned, right? Oh, you say Abraham sinned. That's what the scriptures say, man. The scriptures don't necessarily condemn him as a sinner, but everybody has fallen short, man. Thinking a lewd thought, having a dream, being defiled and waking up unclean, or whatever the case may be, you can't wash in time, there's no well, maybe on a journey, everything isn't malicious. Every man has fallen short in some type of way of the glory of God. All men have sinned, right? That doesn't necessarily mean adultery, murder, or some malicious thing like smoking weed, dealing with all type of tobacco and cigarettes, but all men have fallen short some type of way, man. Right? You may have kept Passover wrong, may not have done something that was perfect in the eyes of the Most High as you thought you was. See, the Most High's eyes are 10,000 times brighter than the sun. So the things he sees, you may not be able to perceive because you're on a low level. So even in your height and your perfections and you being perfected, right, in your mentality of what man may see you in, the Most High can look past that, man. It's saying now, to him that worketh, the worketh is what? The law, right? Is reckoned not of grace, but of debt. Meaning you work and you work and you work and you're going to fall short. You got debt to pay. The debt is blood, a sacrifice. But to him that worketh not, meaning you're not working for a reward, right? You're relying on grace and mercy, but believe for him that justifieth the ungodly. Look at that word justifieth again, right? Being justified freely by his grace. So when it says, but believeth on him that justifieth the ungodly, meaning Yahawashi, his faith is counted for righteousness. So you had the righteousness, which is of the law, in Deuteronomy 6 and 25, and this shall be our righteousness, right? If we keep the commandments of God. But that's not truly our righteousness, because if that's our righteousness, we can never be righteous. It was our righteousness to obtain that until Yahawashi was manifest in the flesh, right, which gave liberty and faith unto man. So when you go back to it, being justified freely by his grace. So we're justified now through the redemption, right, that is in Yahawashi. So we're now redeemed back to the Father and bought with the price by his blood, right? That's what that's talking about, right? Terry Jacobs, Proverbs 29 and 5. Can you give understanding to what spreadeth a net means? Let's go to the mighty book of Proverbs. And you said Proverbs chapter 29 and 5. It's Proverbs 29 and 5. A man flattereth his neighbor, spreadeth a net, right, for his feet, right? So it says a man flattereth his neighbor, man. So you're flattering your neighbor, you know, you're basically being crafty. You flatter your neighbor, you're spreading a net for his feet, man. Meaning what? To capture him. If I say, hey, brother, you know, what's going on, man? I love them kicks, man. Them kicks is fire, man. Where you get them things from? Yeah, oh yeah, man, all praise. So let me see the rest of your collection, man. I'm flattering him so I can go to his house to peep what other shoes he got, man, so I can rob him. That's flattering your neighbor, right, to set a net. A net is to capture somebody. I mean, I'm setting you up. That's not a righteous thing to flatter your neighbor. You don't want to be flattered, man. If the first day, hey, man, your haircut look, you know what I'm saying, look fire, man. You got your waves popping. And look at the grease all in your beard. You look, what you want, man? A wise man is going to consider the craftiness of it. A fool, I've been brushing. You see the bat? Right? You going, and the next thing you know, man, you get captured out of nowhere, man. So you got to be wise and understand the flattery isn't always good, right? So that's really what that precept is going into, right? It says any precepts to what Revelation 13 and 16 means. Right, let's go to it. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 13, and verse number 16. And it reads, right? And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, to receive, so like a free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. Now, you know, this verse is very controversial amongst a lot of camps and a lot of people that break this down. But when you read the chapter, you have to understand the spirit of the Most High. Let's go to the book of 1 Corinthians. Let's dive into it. Right, it's 1 Corinthians chapter 2. And I'm going to start at verse right number 7. But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom which God ordained before the world unto glory, right? Which none of the princes of this world knew. So, I mean, a large understanding of prophecy, breakdowns, knowledge comes from the Christian church, comes from these theologians, right? Comes from these doctrines, comes from man of the world, the princes of the world, right? The mark of the beast. In the Bible, the number 666, the mark of the beast, represents the Antichrist, Satan, and the false prophet in their unholy trinity, right? It says the mark of the beast symbolizes those who worship the Antichrist and reject Christ. So they're saying it's in your hand, 666. University of Buffalo. So, I mean, the wisdom of the princes of the world are the ones giving you really this doctrine of it being in your physical hand. And we've done an in-depth breakdown on this multiple times. Multiple times. But we're not going to trust the wisdom of this world. Because when you read Revelation, the 18th verse, it says, here is wisdom. Esau doesn't have any wisdom. So to take anything that they have given us and on a high level of what the mark of the beast is and what they say it is, it's really coming from their universities, their understanding. And we can't trust what any of their understanding is, man. Because they weren't given wisdom. They can't really dive into what the mark is actually talking about. That's why it says, here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast. When you count the number, right? You're counting, right, the beast. Now, when you're actually going into it, right, you have number variations, right? Like you said, alpha and omega. You have the beginning of the Greek and the end of the Greek. And when you count the number, you go inside of his name, Esau. When you actually count his number, right? And you count 666 and you dive into the Greek and you go into it, man. That's why it says here is wisdom, right? Count the number of the beast, for it's the number of a man, and his number is 600, 6. So when it says, and he calls of all, the he that calls of all is what? Verse 11. And behold, another beast came out of the earth, right? Which is America. You have the Roman Empire, which is the first beast, and the second beast, which is America. And he had two horns like a lamb and spake as a dragon, man. Right? Meaning he comes in the spirit of love and, one nation under all. Everybody loves America. He comes as if he's really a lamb, but he's speaking as a dragon, meaning as a serpent. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. I mean, he moves in the same politics. He moves in the same spirit, right? He conquers all nations. He's strong with the sword and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. So he causes all to worship the first beast, meaning Rome. Now, a lot of people in America don't understand that they're worshiping Rome by worshiping America. That's why he causeth, right, them to worship the first beast. Because America is the revised Roman Empire all over again. Rome fell, 476. You had the revised Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, 1453. Right when you're going into it, then it fell by the barbarian invasion and the Celtic tribes. But it got revised as America, coming back into play. And he doeth great wonders so that he make a fire come down from heaven. That's his bombs, his military. Those are his great wonders he does in the sight of man. His fighter jets, his stealth airplanes and vehicles in the sight and the sleight of men. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth. So men are getting deceived, right, that dwell on earth by what? By the means of those miracles, man. By his scientists, right? By his bombs, by his strength, by him joining all nations together. These are miracles done that deceive them that dwelleth on earth, man. Because what other nation on the face of this earth has all nations dwelling together, man? And so-called peace and harmony that accepts all nations. That's the greatest place to be on earth. That people damn trap themselves in the trunks, right? Fly on, all type of damn things to try to come to America, man. Balling themselves up in suits, driving in the back of vans, squeeze, climbing over the border just to get to America, which had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by the sword and did live, man. Right? So they made an image unto this beast, right? So when, like I said, when you're going into it, jumping down to verse 16, and he is this beast, cause of all, both small and great, meaning it doesn't matter your status and who you are, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand. Now, a lot of people are so, I guess, infatuated and focused on the physicalness of the word mark, going into charisma, going into a physical insertion, but neglecting the spirit of what it's actually going into. Now, if I can get you to take a physical mark, you've already taken a mark. You've already been deceived. You're too focused on one thing, which is a physical mark, neglecting understanding that if he could get you to take a mark, he could get you to take the jab, get you to take, the V, the vax. He can get you to do anything, man. He can get you to, work the Sabbath. He can get you, you're marked, meaning what? Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, right? And the Lord deals heavily with marks. Let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 11. This is Deuteronomy chapter 11, right? And I'm going to start. Matter of fact, let me get this quick precept. Deuteronomy 11 and 18. That's what I want. It's Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 18. Therefore, she lay up these my words in your heart and your soul, right? And in your soul, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, that they may be frontlets, right, between your eyes. So the same places you will put the mark, the Lord is saying spiritually, you're supposed to have the commandments. You're supposed to have your father's name. And that's very, 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 what a coincidence. The same place, the same exact places you will put the mark physically, the Lord is saying to put the mark spiritually. That's not literal to a physical mark that you have to stamp yourself of the Lord, and through a physical mark, you have to stamp yourself in a society. Now, we're in no means teaching that, a physical mark won't come on the earth, man. It may very well come on the earth, but that's not the end all be all of his deceiving and his sorcery and taking the mark. If you'll take that, you'll take anything. You'll be branded with his philosophies, doctrine, understanding, and you'll trust in the beast to survive in this society. It says, and bind them for a sign upon your hand, and that they may be frontlets between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your children, speaking of them when thou sittest in thine house, and when thou walkest by the way, right? And when thou liest down, and when thou risest up. Let me get this quick precept. Right, it's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 6, in verse number 8. And thou shalt bind them for a sign upon thy hand, meaning what? The commandments. And they shall be as frontlets between thine eyes. Meaning your hand represents what? Strength and action to brought forth. Like the Lord, my right hand will do this. The arm of my strength. When you read the scriptures. So your hand represents an action. Now, between the frontlets of your eyes represents your mind. Right? What are you thinking upon? Is your mind of the Lord, or is your mind of the spiritual demon Satan? What are you trusting in? What's your strength? Who's leading you? Who's directing your thoughts? Is it the beast and the trust in it through its sorcery and trust in his hand and his strength? Or is the relay upon the Heavenly Father? Right? Now, going into it, again, and he calls of all, both small and great, rich and poor. Now, if carnally the mark is just for buying and selling, right, and a lot of people's doctrines and philosophies, nobody's going to cause a poor man under a bridge, right, to receive this mark, man. Esau is not going to waste his time gathering up all men that are under bridges, bus stops, that have no money to buy and sell. It's more spiritual than that. I mean, what's the point of grabbing him up, man? He might or might not have a disease, right? I mean, he has no money. What profit of all of the millions of dollars that they're spending in war, right? On armory, on tanks, on vessels, for underground bunkers, to use that money for no apparent reason to implant a poor man, the cause of all, to buy and sell. That makes no sense on a prophetic level when you read the book of Revelation. It's not what that's talking about. You have things that are called an umbrella. Under an umbrella of idolatry rests every sin. So under the mark, you will have a physical incision that you probably would do. Under the mark, you would have tattoos. You would trust in Christianity. You would do these things if you're marked in his understanding. By no means are we saying that there won't be a physical mark. A lot of people just too caught up on that one part. They're neglecting the rest of what's going on. And nobody ever wants to touch on the latter part of 17. It says, and no man might buy or sell. That's the only thing they want to touch on is buy and sell. Then they slam the book shut. Saith he that have the mark or the name of the beast. How do you get the name of the beast? That's like saying you can't come into my store and buy, unless you have a credit card, money, or whatever the case may be, right? Or credit. Everybody just want to focus on the credit card. They're not focusing on the debit, not focusing on the credit. They're not focusing on the cash. The Lord is saying that no man might buy or sell, say if he that have the mark or the name of the beast. What if you don't take the mark, but have the name of the beast? What is the name of the beast? How do you receive the name of the beast? You're so caught up on verse 16 that you've neglected 17 when it says or. Meaning I have the option to get an Apple computer or HP. Under all would be taking something. But everybody wants to focus on the Apple and not the HP. It says, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Meaning in 17, it's all symbolic of one. The mark, the name, and his number. But nobody ever breaks down the name. Nobody ever breaks down the number. Nobody breaks it down. They just harp on 16, what low-level points of buying and selling, and they shut the book and slam it and say that it's talking about charisma, right? Going into a physical insertion, but neglecting the rest of the chapter, which is really going into sorcery, being deceived by this beast that is the revised Roman Empire. The real deceiving and craftiness, right, would deceive the simple, man. This whole chapter is not physical and carnal. Can't take this whole chapter talking about a dragon, going into speaking as a lamb. And just get physical and shut it and it not be spiritual the rest of the chapter. Reading verse 15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast. And the image of the beast should both speak and cause all as many as that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed, man. So what happened to the image of the beast? The name of the beast, the number of the beast. All of these things are being killed if you do not get down with his philosophy and his way of living. If you didn't get down with the Romans, they'll kill you, man. If you didn't serve and get down with the Romans and got down with their way of living, they would crucify you and destroy you. So we can't skip over 15, 17, and 18 and harp just upon 16 with carnalism. That would make no sense in prophecy. But let me get this closing precept. This is the mighty book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse number 2. It says, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain. Meaning what? Brothers have to understand that whatever's lacking upon you, you need to strengthen that up, lest the Most High take it from you. That are ready to die. And things are always ready to die, man. It could be your reading, right? It could be your congregating. It could be your understanding of the scriptures. It says, for I have not found thy works perfect before God. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come at thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So keep watch, be diligent, do the work of the Most High, have the fear of the Most High. Most High willingness was edifying. I'm going to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, by Hashem Mashiach, Malak Yahweh. Shalom.